Okay, so we are absolutely swimming in information these days, aren't we? Just
Yeah.
everywhere you look.
Mhm.
Articles, social media feeds, even AI-generated stuff popping up all over.
It's a deluge.
Totally. And the real challenge now isn't really finding information. It's making sense of it all.
Yeah.
Like, how do you sift through everything, figure out what's, reliable and what's just noise?
Yeah, what's actually important.
Exactly. And that's what we're diving into today, how technology, specifically when used collaboratively, can boost a skill we desperately need for all this critical thinking.
Precisely. And for this particular deep dive, we're focusing on a really solid piece of research. It's called a meta-analysis.
Okay, that sounds potentially complex.
I can sound that way, but the idea is pretty simple, actually. Imagine you want to know the answer to a question like, does a certain teaching method work? Instead of just looking at one study, a meta-analysis gathers all the good quality studies on that specific question.
Oh.
Then it analyzes the results from all of them together. So you're not just seeing one piece of the puzzle, you're getting like the whole picture put together.
I like that, seeing the whole forest, not just a single tree.
Exactly that analogy. It gives you a much more robust and reliable answer.
Gotcha. So where does today's forest map come from?
Well, we're working with excerpts from a paper called The Impacts of Computer-Supported Collaborative Learning on Students' Critical Thinking, a meta-analysis. It was published in Education and Information Technologies by Tedla and Shen.
Okay. And our mission today, for you listening, is to pull out the key insights from this big study, unpack any jargon so it makes sense, and hopefully spark some aha moments about thinking critically in our tech-filled world.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, so let's start with the core concept, critical thinking. We hear this phrase all the time, right? We need more critical thinking. But what does it actually mean, especially now? The paper calls it a crucial 21st century skill.
Yeah, and it's essential because the challenges we face are, as the paper puts it, unprecedented and ever-changing. It's not just about being smart. The researchers define it more like purposeful, logical, and goal-oriented thinking.
Purposeful, logical, goal-oriented. Okay.
Think of it as the art of analyzing and evaluating thinking, your own thinking and the thinking of others. So practically, it's about questioning information. Is this source credible? Is the argument sound?
Are they telling me the whole story?
Exactly. Is there bias here? It's about separating, the real deal from the fake, the truth from the bogus, as they say. And this is super relevant now with things like ChatGPT.
Oh, definitely.
Because those AI outputs, they sound convincing, but as the paper points out, they aren't always accurate or reliable. You absolutely need critical thinking to evaluate what they produce.
So it's kind of like having a well-honed BS detector, but for everything.
That's a pretty good way to put it.
Yeah.
And the research helpfully breaks critical thinking down into two main parts, makes it easier to grasp.
Okay, what are they?
First, there are the critical thinking skills, or CTS. This is the doing part. Things like interpreting information, analyzing arguments, evaluating evidence, drawing inferences, explaining your reasoning.
Right, the actions you take.
And then there's the critical thinking disposition, or CTD. This is more about your mindset, your habit of mind.
Ah, okay, like your attitude towards thinking.
Precisely. Are you genuinely truth-seeking? Are you open-minded to different perspectives? Are you inquisitive, naturally curious, systematic in your approach, analytical? Even things like intellectual maturity and self-confidence play a role here.
So it's like having the right tools, the skills, but also having the right mindset and willingness to actually use those tools effectively.
Couldn't have said it better myself. You need both. And the paper stresses that this isn't just an academic skill, it's vital everywhere.
In the workplace, you mean?
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Across all sorts of jobs, healthcare, engineering, business people face complex, unexpected problems constantly. They need to make quick decisions, solve things on the fly. That requires strong critical thinking.
And you can't just like absorb this skill from a lecture.
No, passive learning doesn't cut it. The research is clear. You develop critical thinking by doing it, by actively engaging, wrestling with ideas, questioning, debating, solving problems.
Okay, that makes total sense. So critical thinking, crucial skill, needs active development. Now let's bring in the other piece. Computer-supported collaborative learning, or CSCL. Sounds a bit technical.
It does, but again, the core idea is pretty straightforward. Collaborative learning, people learning together, that's been studied for decades, right? Going back to the 60s even.
Right, group projects and discussions.
Exactly. CSCL is basically the evolution of that, specifically emerging around the 1990s when digital tools became more common. The CS part just means computer-supported.
So using technology to help people learn together.
Precisely. It focuses on how technology can support and enhance that social interaction for learning, letting students work together even if they're not in the same room or even the same time zone.
Okay. And what are the big advantages the research points out for CSCL?
Well, several things. It can create a more motivating atmosphere, help get discussions going. It obviously breaks down barriers of time and location. You can collaborate with anyone, anywhere, anytime.
That's huge.
But one really interesting benefit they highlight is the asynchronous nature of many CSCL tools.
Asynchronous,
Mm,
meaning not happening in real time.
exactly, like online discussion forums or shared documents you comment on, unlike a live video call where you feel pressured to respond instantly.
Yeah, that awkward silence pressure,
Yeah.
or saying something you immediately regret.
Right. Asynchronous tools give you time to actually think, reflect, maybe look up some evidence, formulate a more considered response. The paper notes this allows for using formal research-based evidence, leading to, you guessed it,
Higher quality critical thinking.
bingo. Plus, there are the social and cognitive supports, easy access to resources, getting feedback from your peers, direct communication channels.
Makes sense. But is it just about throwing tech at a group, or are there nuances?
Oh, definitely nuances. The paper is quick to point out that just using tech for collaboration isn't automatically effective. Success really depends on things like, well, how the group is put together, the type of task they're working on, and the quality of the interaction. Meaning, are students actually explaining things to each other? Are they engaging in constructive arguments and debates? Are they sharing the workload fairly? Those interaction patterns are key.
Got it. So it's not magic. It needs careful design. Okay, so we understand critical thinking. We understand CSCL. Let's get to the main event, this big meta-analysis. What did it find overall? You said 30 studies.
30 studies, yeah, conducted between 2014 and 2023, covering almost 3,000 participants, 2,980 to be exact, across 11 different countries. So a really diverse and substantial data set.
Wow, okay. And the big headline.
The big headline is pretty clear. CSCL works. It is a highly effective way to foster critical thinking. They calculated an overall effect size, or ES, of 0.854.
Okay, 0.854. Is that
Oh.
is that good? How do we interpret that number?
That's a great question. In educational research, we often use Cohen's benchmarks. An effect size of 0.2 is small, 0.5 is medium, and 0.8 or above is considered large.
Large. So 0.854 is definitely in the large category.
Absolutely. It means CSCL isn't just having a tiny, negligible impact. It's producing a substantial, meaningful improvement in students' critical thinking abilities. It really moves the needle, as they say.
That's impressive. Now, sometimes with meta-analyses, people worry about publication bias, like maybe only studies with positive results got published. Did they look into that?
They did, and they found no apparent evidence of publication bias. They used statistical tests to check for this, and the results suggest that the positive finding isn't just because negative or null results were hidden away in file drawers somewhere.
Okay, so the finding seems robust. It's reliable.
It seems very reliable. However, they also noted what's called moderate heterogeneity among the studies.
Heterogeneity, meaning
Yeah.
differences.
Exactly. It means that while the overall effect was strongly positive, the amount of effect varied somewhat from study to study. CSCL worked well generally, but it worked better in some conditions than others.
Ah, okay. And that's where it gets really juicy, right? What are those conditions? What's the secret sauce that makes CSCL extra effective for critical thinking?
Precisely. This is where we get into the moderating variables, the factors that influenced how well CSCL worked.
Let's dig in. What was the first big factor?
Okay, first up, the types of instructional activities. What were students actually doing?
Right.
They found that activities combining several things, specifically visualization, discussion, and creation performance, were significantly more effective.
So not just talking, but seeing, doing, and talking.
Exactly. Better than activities that only focused on discussion or only on visualization. It seems that engaging multiple modes, seeing concepts visually, discussing them, and then actively creating something or performing a task based on them really amplifies the critical thinking boost.
That makes intuitive sense. More active, more engaging. What about the tech itself? Could the kind of technology matter?
Yes, that was another key moderator. Technology usage. The findings here pointed towards multifunctional tools being best.
Multifunctional, like
Oh.
tools that do several things.
Right. Think of platforms that combine, say, video conferencing, shared whiteboards, chat, and collaborative document editing all in one place. Your Swiss Army knife apps.
Gotcha.
Interestingly, using tech primarily for accessing information showed a particularly strong effect, followed by using it for content creation, then collaboration, and finally, communication. It seems enabling students to easily find information, then do something with it collaboratively, analyze it, synthesize it, build arguments is really powerful.
So tools that support the whole workflow, from research to creation to discussion. Okay, what about the students themselves? Did age matter?
It did. Education level was significant. CSCL showed a stronger impact on university and high school students compared to elementary and middle school students.
Why do you think that is?
Well, the researchers suggest it likely relates to cognitive maturity and prior knowledge. Older students generally have a better foundation to grapple with complex issues, engage in sophisticated argumentation, and benefit more from the kind of analytical thinking CSCL promotes.
That tracks. You need some base to build on for that higher level thinking. Now, you mentioned critical thinking has two parts: skills, CTS, and disposition, CTD. Did it matter which one the intervention focused on?
Yes, that was fascinating. The dimensions of CT target was another moderator. Interventions that specifically targeted critical thinking disposition, that mindset part, remember? Open-mindedness, inquisitiveness.
Right, the habit of mind.
Those interventions actually had a stronger impact than interventions targeting only the skills, or even those targeting both skills and disposition together.
Wow, really? So focusing on the mindset paid off more.
It seems so, according to this analysis. It suggests that maybe fostering that willingness to question, that openness, that curiosity, maybe that's a more powerful lever, initially at least, than just teaching specific analytical techniques. Perhaps it's easier to shift your underlying approach or attitude first.
That is really insightful, sort of building the foundation of wanting to think critically.
Yeah.
Okay, what else? Did study details matter, like how many people were involved?
Sample size did show up as a moderator. Interestingly, studies with either small or large sample sizes tended to show higher effects than medium-sized ones.
Huh. That seems a bit counterintuitive.
It does a bit. However, the researchers caution that the results from the large sample studies are generally more reliable. They have narrower confidence intervals, meaning less uncertainty. They did use statistical corrections for potential bias in small studies, but they acknowledge other factors likely contribute to this pattern too.
Okay, so size matters, but maybe not in a perfectly linear way, and bigger is generally more trustworthy. What about how they measured critical thinking? Did the tests make a difference?
Big difference. The data collection instrument was crucial. Studies that used standardized, validated tests designed specifically to measure critical thinking.
Like professionally developed, well-regarded tests.
Exactly. Those studies produced more reliable and robust results, showing stronger effects compared to studies that used, say, researcher-created or self-made tests that hadn't gone through the same rigorous validation.
Makes sense. A better measuring stick gives you a clear picture. Okay, so we've had activities, tech, age, CT focus, sample size, measurement tool. Was there anything that didn't seem to make a significant difference?
Yes, one factor that didn't show up as a significant moderator was intervention duration, how long the CSCL activity lasted.
Oh, really? So it doesn't matter if it's a week or a semester?
Well, hold on. There's a really important caveat here. The paper points out that duration in these studies was often measured in broad units, like weeks.
Ah, not actual hours spent.
Precisely. So a 4-week intervention could mean vastly different amounts of actual engagement time. It doesn't capture the intensity or the quality of the time spent. So the takeaway isn't that time doesn't matter, but rather that number of weeks isn't a great measure. It's likely more about the quality and intensity of the collaborative thinking hours, not just the calendar duration.
That's a critical distinction. Okay, that was a lot of detail, but super helpful. So pulling it all together, what does this mean for you, the listener? If you're a student or an educator or just trying to navigate life.
Right, let's translate this. For learners, the message is pretty clear. Actively look for or even create opportunities to use technology for collaborative learning. Don't just be a passive consumer of online content.
Get involved.
Exactly. Jump into discussions, work on projects together, create things with others online, and really focus on cultivating that disposition. Be curious, ask questions, challenge assumptions, including your own. Be open to different views. That collaborative process itself, sharing ideas, debating, explaining, naturally pushes you to think more critically.
Good advice.
Yeah.
And for educators or people designing these learning systems.
The emphasis is really on thoughtful design. Don't just throw students into a discussion forum. Design multifunctional digital activities that explicitly encourage collaboration, questioning, analysis, evaluation, creation. Mix it up.
Like that visualization, discussion, creation combo.
Precisely. And tailor it to the student's level. Remember the difference between high school and elementary. Consider different learning styles. And crucially, if you want to know if it's working, use high-quality, standardized tools to actually measure critical thinking development. Don't just rely on anecdotal feeling.
Just what matters, essentially. This whole conversation really highlights just how vital critical thinking is becoming, maybe more than ever, especially with AI developing so fast. It's not just a school skill.
Absolutely not. It's a fundamental life skill for navigating complexity, evaluating information, making sound decisions. It's becoming indispensable.
So the big takeaway seems to be that CSCL, using tech to learn together, is genuinely a powerful way to build that skill, especially when it's done thoughtfully.
That sums it up well. Thoughtful design, multifunctional tools, diverse activities, and a real focus on fostering that critical mindset.
Okay, before we wrap up, you always leave us with something to chew on. What's the provocative thought for today?
All right, here it is. As AI gets increasingly sophisticated and integrated into our lives, generating text, images, even analysis, how will our human ability to think critically about those AI outputs, to question them, evaluate them, decide when and how to use them, become maybe the ultimate 21st century superpower? Not just thinking with tech, but thinking about tech's output. And perhaps more importantly, what are you going to do starting today to consciously hone that superpower in your own life?
That is definitely something to reflect on. A fantastic question. Thank you so much for breaking down this complex research for us today.
My pleasure. It was a great discussion.
And thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep thinking critically.